You spent 30 years learning how to save money. But here's the problem. Almost no one teaches you how to actually spend it. And the way you turn your investments into income in retirement is a major factor in long-term retirement sustainability and legacy planning. Today, I'm going to show you the only 3 ways retirees actually generate income from their portfolios, why 2 of them can create significant long-term planning challenges if not managed carefully, and an approach many retirees may not fully consider. Hi, I'm Doug Mincer, president of the Mincer Group, and I've spent years helping retirees navigate the exact moment when the paychecks stop and your portfolio has to start paying you. Here's what you need to know going in. 2 of these approaches involve trade-offs that many retirees underestimate. Different approaches may work better depending on the retiree's flexibility, spending needs, and market conditions. And one flexible approach that many retirees may underutilize involves dynamic withdrawal planning. Let's start with the approach almost every retiree defaults to. I call it the income-only portfolio approach. The idea sounds perfect. Build a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks and bonds, collect the income they throw off, never touch your principal. The goal is to preserve principal while generating retirement income. Many retirees find the approach psychologically appealing. Here are some of the planning trade-offs retirees should understand, though. To generate $50,000 a year from dividends alone, you'd need roughly $1.7 million invested at a 3% yield before taxes. Most retirees don't have that much, and some investors may end up with portfolios that are heavily concentrated in high dividend sectors like utilities, real estate, financials. Well, when those sectors get hammered, and they do, the income could drop right when you need it most. But here's the part that really matters. Dividend payments can change depending on company performance and market conditions. Bond yields swing wildly. Income levels may become less predictable during periods of economic stress. I watched this happen in 2008. I watched it happen again in 2020. Some retirees discovered their income assumptions were less stable than expected during volatile markets. Not through bad luck, but through a strategy that looks solid right up until it wasn't. Now, if you're watching this and realizing your entire retirement plan depends on dividend income that's not as stable as you thought, you're not alone. This is exactly why I help clients at the Mincer Group stress test their income strategies before retirement, not after. If you want to see what your portfolio can actually sustain, I put a link in the description below where you can book a time with me. Now, here's the second approach. This one sounds airtight. It's called systematic withdrawal. It's better known as the 4% rule. Withdraw 4% the first year, adjust for inflation every year after that, ignore what the market does. Discipline, scientific, and backed by decades of research. But what risk does this create? Well, several important ones. Let me show you. You retire in January 2008 with $1 million. The 4% rule says withdraw $40,000, but then the market collapses. Your portfolio gets crushed. But the rule says keep withdrawing $40,000 adjusted for inflation. Now you're pulling 5, 6, 7% from a devastated portfolio. Large early withdrawals during downturns can make portfolio recovery more difficult. Negative early returns can materially affect long-term retirement sustainability. And there's another flaw nobody mentions. The 4% rule also assumes you spend the same amount of money every year until you die. But research has shown that's not actually how people live. Spending tends to be higher in early retirement years when people are healthy and more active. It dips in the middle, then it rises again in the final years when healthcare costs can climb. Now, researchers call this the retirement spending smile. A rigid withdrawal framework may not fully account for changing retirement spending patterns. It treats you more like a robot when you're a human being with changing needs. So here's an approach many planners use to introduce greater flexibility into retirement income planning. And the reason most people never use it is simpler than you think. It requires making a few decisions up front. Dynamic withdrawals. The core idea is straightforward. You adjust your spending based on what is actually happening in your portfolio and in your life. Markets are up, you can spend a little more. Markets are down, you pull back temporarily and let the portfolio recover. Financial planners Jonathan Guyton and William Klinger formalize this with what they call the guardrails method. Upper and lower limits on your withdrawal rate that tell you when to spend more and when to ease off. Research on flexible withdrawal strategies has shown that approaches like this, especially when built around realistic spending patterns, may support higher sustainable withdrawal flexibility than more rigid approaches. In some analysis, these approaches supported meaningfully higher initial spending flexibility over long retirement periods. That additional flexibility can materially affect retirement lifestyle choices over time. Now, let me show you what this looks like in practice. Had a couple come to me 3 years before retirement. They had everything in target date funds and were planning to use the 4% rule, well, because that's what they'd always heard. Now, when we modeled their actual spending, more in early years for travel, less in the middle, more again later in life for healthcare, the picture changed completely. We built a dynamic framework around their real numbers. In a good year, they had a clear threshold where they could spend more without guilt. In a down year, they knew exactly which discretionary items to pause and for how long. When the market dropped the second year of their retirement, they didn't panic. They pulled back on discretionary spending for 1 year. let the portfolio stabilize, and then we're back to normal the following year. They felt more prepared for market volatility because they had predefined spending adjustments in place. Now, here's how you actually build this. You start with your baseline, the minimums you need for housing, food, healthcare, and other essentials. Then you identify your discretionary spending, the trips, the gifts, the things that make retirement worth having. Then you set your guardrails. If your withdrawal rate stays in a normal range, around 3.5% to 4.5%, you spend as planned. If your portfolio grows and your rate drops below 3%, you give yourself a raise or pull forward something from the bucket list. But if the portfolio drops and your rate climbs above 5%, you reduce discretionary spending temporarily until it stabilizes. That structure gives you something the other approaches may not provide: greater spending flexibility during stronger market environments, and a clear, calm plan when things are not. Now, the best approach for you depends on your specific numbers, your flexibility, what you actually want your retirement to look like, and there's no universal answer. But a personalized strategy may better reflect individual retirement goals and circumstances. If you want help building an income strategy that actually fits your retirement, book a time with me. The link's in the description below. I'll see you in the next video.